my name is Mason. Welcome to Mason's Critters. Today I'm making a quick video on how to measure different parameters in your enclosure, specifically your visible light, your UVB, your power density from your heat lamp, and also the temperatures in your enclosure. There are several different tools that you can use. I'm going to show you the 4 that I personally use and how to use them and why it's important to use the ones that I'm showing you specifically. Specifically, this is going to be for bearded dragons. This is my bearded dragon Goobert. She is a really sweet and funny dragon, very unique, and I have removed the doors to my enclosure just to make things a little bit easier, and hopefully Goobert will behave. I just gave her some salad to hopefully tide her over. But let's just get right into how to use these different really important tools that I think every keeper should have in their arsenal. First up is a really basic tool. This is a temperature gun. Temperature guns are used to take surface temperatures in different parts of the enclosure. This is specifically really important for your basking zone, to make sure that the surface temperature of the basking area is not too high to where it can be uncomfortable and potentially dangerous for your dragon, where it can result in thermal burns or just decreased basking activity due to the discomfort from a basking surface being too hot. So I'm going to show you how to use this. It's important to note every temperature gun is a little bit different. They're going to have specific instructions for the model that you are using. This one directs me to hold it just about a little less than a foot away from the surface that I'm measuring for the most accurate temperature. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so this is Goobert's basking zone. She has a 100 watt heat lamp from Zoomed. It's a Zoomed Reptibasking. They don't make the 100 watt bulbs anymore. They make 125 watt bulbs. And this is Miss Goobert. This is the temperature gun I'm using. I'm holding it about a foot away. And right now her basking spot is around 107. Now, I don't use stone for her basking area because I find that it gets just a little too hot for Goobert and it's uncomfortable for her. The most important thing with the basking zone is to make sure that the material is a natural material. You don't want plastic, you don't want resin, you don't want anything like that, because a lot of those things, when heated, can release VOCs, which are fumes that can irritate or be toxic to your animal. So I use cork. I really like using cork. It holds heat well. This can get pretty hot, and Goobert wants to eat my fingers because of course she does. Come here, Goob. Time out. So I can hold my hand here, even though it's quite hot, or the surface temperature is reading fairly hot. Like right about here, it says 126. But when I put my hand here, it's totally comfortable. It does not feel burning hot to the touch. When I have my hand here, it's feeling warm and tingly, but not uncomfortable. That's what you want to go for. You don't want your animal, of course, to be uncomfortable or possibly in pain if it's too hot. So this will help make sure that your temperatures are correct, and then you can also just do the hand test. But this is kind of her peak basking area where I find she hangs out the most, and the temperature reading in that area is right around 199, right in that ballpark. So far so good for Miss Goobert. All right, the next tool that we're going to be using is a really important one, but it's not one that a lot of people have because it is honestly a tool that's on the pricier side. Typically, these run around $250. This is a Solar Meter 6.5R. There's also just the regular Solar Meter 6.5, and that one works great as well. But this is the one that I use, and it's to measure the output of your UVB. This is really important because if your UVB is not providing the output that your dragon or whatever animal you're keeping needs, then obviously that animal could have a lot of problems, especially a species like bearded dragons who need UVB and proper UVI, the UV index, to survive. The proper UV index for bearded dragons is between 4.0 and 6.0 typically. It can be a little bit lower, it can be a little bit higher, but that is kind of the range that most bearded dragons are going to thrive at. So we're going to measure Goobert's. I have her UVB mounted inside the enclosure because thanks to this, I was able to find out that the Arcadia 14% bulb that I was using when this originally was mounted outside of the enclosure on top of the screen was actually faulty and not putting out the UVI that Goobert needed. And as a result, she was having some digestive problems, she was sluggish, and so using this, I was able to figure out it was a problem where my UVB bulb was not working correctly. That can happen sometimes, you know, they're made in factories, and sometimes things in factories don't go as they're supposed to, and I was just unlucky enough to get a faulty bulb. So to make it work, I mounted the UVB inside and I measured it with my solar meter until it was displaying the UVI that was needed for Goobert to be able to thrive. These are really simple to use, but it's also pretty easy to screw it up. So I'm going to show you exactly how to use these devices. All right, so to use your solar meter, you're going to hold it upright. You don't want to tilt it this way, that way, or anything. You want to hold it directly upright. And you want this white sensor to be about at the level of shoulder height for your dragon while they are basking. So, and you just press this one button, you press and hold, and it'll give you the UVI. So right here is where about Goobert enjoys basking, and it's at 4.1, 4.2, which is perfect. If we move it up a little bit to where she tends to like to bask for heating as well, it is still within proper UVI range of about 3.5. We move it down here where she also likes to hang out. It's a little bit lower, but she's still getting some exposure. And it's important to hold it upright because if I tilt it, it's suddenly looking a lot weaker. And that can make you think, oh, she's not getting the UVB she needs. Tilt it upright, and it's perfect. Really, really important to get that correct. And on the top, there is this handy little Ferguson zone guide, and we're going for Ferguson zone 3, which is about 3 to 5. Can go a little bit into Ferguson zone 6. Depends on what you read for the most part. But this is a really handy mini guide to show what exactly you're going for. And so typically you want your UVB to be within a certain distance of your dragon for proper UVI. And that is helpful if you don't have a solar meter, but you won't know if your UVB is working correctly without a solar meter 6.5. There may be, you know, there's little cards. She's coming to eat it. You gonna get it, Gooby? No, you're not, because I paid too much money for it. But you might see little UVB measuring cards or other devices that try to knock off the solar meter 6.5. They don't work. Don't get scammed. This is the only tool currently as of April 2025 that can properly measure the UVB output of your UVB light. The UVB measuring cards that are out there also react to UVA, which is something that is produced by your heat lamp. So those might show like, yeah, your UVB is working great when it's also measuring the UVA output of your heat bulb. Same with other little knockoff devices. It's just not accurate. They did not prove to work well during testing by experts such as Thomas Griffiths and Dr. Francis Baines. This is the only one right now that is viable. If you'd like to get one of these, you have a few different options. It's available on several websites. I got mine online. You can get it for a good price at places like Josh's Frogs. Occasionally PetSmart will run online promotions where you can get this at a discount. Those are pretty much the best options right now. Again, typical price is $250, but I have seen it as low as $180. This is an investment, but this is a tool where if you care for it, it will last you a lifetime, and it'll save you a lot of headache of being worried about your bearded dragon or other animals. If you have multiple reptiles, this is a fantastic tool to have for all of them so you can give them the correct UVB. The next tool we're going to check out is a LUX Meter. This is really important for reptiles and other animals that hail from really sunny environments, especially bearded dragons. In the Australian outback, they are exposed to super high levels of sun. Typically, the lux levels or light levels that they experience on an average sunny day is 120,000 lux. And this stimulates them to bask. It stimulates their circadian rhythms, their day-night cycle. It stimulates their immune system, their digestion. It helps with their parasite load. It helps them fight off parasite overload. And it helps with their skin health. It helps with a lot of different things. It's good for their eyesight. So I really recommend not only having a LUX meter, but also LED light. And not just any LED light is going to work. You're going to want to go for one that has a good spectrum, one that's been tested by reptile lighting experts and is approved, tested, and trusted to be used for reptiles. A couple examples, I use my Jungle Dawn LED bar, and I also use a Sansi 100 watt LED light that's kind of like a floodlight. That's that light that's in this area. You're going to bite me. Don't you do that. Right over this orange basking rock that she has is where her LED is, right next to her heat. You want all of your LED to be in the basking zone because bearded dragons are heliothermic reptiles, which means they associate bright light with warm temperatures. So if you have your heating on this side and then you have your LED over here because you want to brighten up your cool side, it's going to confuse your bearded dragon. They're going to go over there looking to bask because it's super bright, and then they're going to be like, where's my heat? And that can cause inconsistent basking behavior. Another really important thing to consider when you get LED is that you want it to be on the same schedule as the rest of your heating and your lighting, your UVB, all that good stuff. You don't want it to be on 24/7, of course, because the sun's not out 24/7, and that can be really confusing for them. The goal with providing LED in the basking area and throughout the enclosure is to create, again, your patch of sunlight. We are trying to mimic sunlight as best as we can, and an enclosure that does not have supplementary LED lighting, for bearded dragons especially, where they just have the heat light and the UVB, are typically around 4,000 to 5,000 lux, compared to in the wild, they're experiencing 120,000 lux. To them, that's like being in a cave if they only have UVB and a heat light. So you really need to consider the overall well-being and how we can get these animals to thrive. And a big part of that is providing visible light, LED light. So this tool measures how bright your basking zone is. So I'm going to show you how to use that. All right, so right in the basking zone, again, I've got two LEDs. There's one right there, and then another one back there. I'm going to pop off the sensor. Oh my gosh, Goobert. Goobert went back to timeout once again. So I'm popping off the cover to the LUX meter. This is the sensor. It's important to keep that nice and clean. Turning the sensor on. And right now it is set for K lux, which means thousands of lux. So you're going to hold it flat like this, and you're going to put it in a sunny spot. Get the most accurate reading. And then you can click hold, and it'll show you the measurement. So right now I'm looking at about just over 40,000 lux in the basking zone. Typical equipment right now, we haven't really achieved anything too much brighter than this. 30 to 40,000 lux is kind of the ballpark of what you want to aim for. If you can get it to be brighter, awesome. But with 2 bright LED lights, this is the measurement I'm getting currently. Really easy to use. There's multiple different LUX meters you can use. This is just one that I prefer. It's pretty cheap. It's about 20 bucks. Same as the infrared laser temp gun, about 20 bucks. So really simple, easy tool, but allows you to get a good idea of how much light exposure your dragon is getting, or any other reptile for that matter, to make sure they're getting the light exposure they need and they're not in a dark enclosure that can mess with their overall health, activity, things like that. So if you're finding that your bearded dragon, where are you going? If you're finding that your bearded dragon is inactive, uninterested, not doing well, hiding all the time, maybe you just need to add a little bit of supplemental LED light, and you can measure that using your LUX meter. All right, last but certainly not least is the DBTU 1300 General Tools Power Meter. This tool is super important for accurately measuring the power density of the heat lamp. Temperatures are important. This is going to show the power density emitting from the heat lamp, which shows how well your bearded dragon or any other reptile is getting their core body temps raised and the deep tissue heat that they need for proper digestion, overall just body function, things like that. This is a newer tool. Measuring power density is a newer concept that a lot of keepers are not really aware of yet. So I really want to make this video to especially highlight this really awesome tool. I've got it for about $80 on eBay. You can find it at a similar price on places like Amazon. But this is a really, really good tool. And I'm going to show you how exactly you use this to make sure that your dragon or any other animal is getting warm enough in the basking area, because temperatures are just one element to that. This is going to help you make sure that your dragon is getting the exposure of heat that they need, the correct irradiance, all that good stuff. So let's go ahead and check that out. All right, so I've turned the meter on. You just hold the power button to do that. Then you set it to watts per meter squared, as it is set to right now. There you go, you can see it good now. You do that by just clicking the set button. And then I'm going to move Goobert because she wants to bite my hand, because she associates all movement with food. All right, and just like with the solar meter, we're gonna make sure this white sensor is about back to shoulder height of where Goobert's shoulders and back would be during basking. Okay, Goobert got overexcited, so I had to take a measurement and run. But this is about where it's at in her basking area, which is a really great power density reading. This is ideal. Again, if it's a little bit higher, a little bit lower, that's perfectly fine. You just want it right around in the 250 to 300 range, and that way you'll know your bearded dragon is getting exactly what they need while they're in the basking zone. So this is again a newer tool, a newer method for making sure our animals get warm enough. There are a range of different power densities for different species, but for most reptiles, it's going to be between 200 and 300, just depending on the species. Highly recommend picking up this great tool. All right, those are the tools I recommend using to measure the parameters of your enclosure and about the ballpark measurements you want for bearded dragons. If you liked the video, please leave a like, leave a comment. Tell me what the parameters of your enclosures are. Interested to know. Again, thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you'd like to check out more videos on reptile keeping and advancing your husbandry. I hope that if it helped you out, you want to share with other keepers, please share. And I hope to see you again in the future. And so does Goobert. So thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day. And I'll see you in the next video.